Well, hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's edition of The Goldie Show. And we have a very interesting and exciting topic that we're going to discuss and go over today. Because what we are seeing coming out of occupied Iran right now is emerging videos of protests. And this is not protests that happened back on January 8 and 9. These are not protests that happened years ago. These are protests that are literally happening today, yesterday, a few days ago. The footage that I'm about to share with you is the reason why the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime occupying Iran shut down the internet for 88 days. Because the Islamic regime does not want you to know the truth about what's happening inside of occupied Iran. The Islamic regime is not very powerful in terms of the military that it has, or whatever's left of it after the United States and Israel pretty much decimated everything. It's not strong. The only thing the Islamic regime is strong in when it comes to its military power is murdering the Iranian people. Because the Islamic regime is a terrorist organization, and the Islamic regime uses its military weapons not against the United States and Israel. They use it against the unarmed, innocent Iranians. Iranians who have been trying to rise up, or they have been rising up for the last 47 years. But every single time they rise up, they're brutally quelled because they're unarmed and the Islamic regime has all the weapons. That's the reality of living in a country that is being occupied by a totalitarian dictatorship, a brutal totalitarian dictatorship that does not see its civilians or citizens as part of its regime. No, the Islamic regime does not view Iranians as people that it represents. The Islamic regime, because it is a foreign occupying invading force, and by the way, many of them are not even Iranian, the Islamic regime views the Iranian people as a burden, as a tool, as a means to an end. That's why Iranian lives are worthless to the Islamic regime. That's why the Islamic regime has absolutely no problem in murdering Iranians. That's why the Islamic regime, the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime, is hanging innocent Iranians every day for the crime of waging war against Allah. Allah being their evil, satanic deity. Yeah. Imagine living in a country where you can be executed for the crime of posting your dissatisfaction with the government on social media. Imagine living in a country where the government shuts down the internet and cuts you off from the outside world for almost 3 months because they don't want the outside world to know that you don't like them. Imagine living in a country where when you go out to peacefully protest, the government uses military-grade machine guns to fire anti-aircraft bullets into the crowd, slaughtering 40,000 people all across the country in 2 days alone. For us Iranians, we don't have to imagine that, because for us Iranians, that's the horrific reality that we have been living under for the last 47 years. And yet, despite all of that, despite effort after effort by the terrorist and illegitimate Islamic regime to silence Iranians, to murder Iranians, to try and convince the outside world that Iranians support the Islamic regime, despite all of that, Iranians are still rising up. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason that Iranians are one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Because throughout the centuries, the Iranian people have been conquered, but we've never been colonized. And that's the difference. Yes, of course, we've been conquered. There's no denying that. But the Iranian identity, the Iranian language, the Iranian culture, Iranian religion, which is Zoroastrianism, Iranian food, Iranian art, Iranian poetry, that has survived. The Iranian identity is thousands and thousands of years old. And let me tell you something. 47 years of a brutal and terrorist Islamic occupation by a bunch of Muslim Nazi invaders, that's just a blip. That is a blip in the long and glorious timeline of the Iranian civilization. And the Iranian people and the Iranian identity have existed for thousands of years before Islam was invented. And we are going to exist for thousands of years after we eradicate this Islamic cancer from our country. Because what you're witnessing today, this is the modern day version of the Crusades. Yeah, it's the modern day version of the Crusades. And this struggle against Islamic occupation didn't start today. It started 1400 years ago, right away. Iranians have been fighting against their Islamic invaders and occupiers for the last 1400 years. And, I look at countries like Spain. Spain was conquered by the Muslim Arab invaders. And Spain was colonized by the Muslim Arab invaders for 700 or 900 years. Can't remember off the top of my head. But even after 700 or 900 years, Spain was able to decolonize thanks to the Crusades. Now, of course, Spain today is a whole other different scenario. In fact, the entirety of Europe today is a whole other scenario, because I truly believe what's happening in Europe right now, this is the second coming of the jihad, right? The Islamic invaders tried to conquer Europe 1400 years ago. They were pushed back because of the Crusades. But now they're doing it again. And they're taking advantage of the Western liberal democratic values in Western countries to push their agenda forward, to push their jihad forward. But while all that is happening in Western countries, you have people talking about DEI and multiculturalism and all cultures are equal and all religions are equal, blah, 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 all that lefty narrative, whatever stuff. What's happening in occupied Iran is very different. And that's why a lot of leftists and a lot of progressives and a lot of, communist, Antifa, whatever, they are very against the Iranian revolution. And they actually support the Islamic regime because they view our struggle, our Iranian struggle against the Islamic regime, they view that as a threat to their narrative. Because in their minds, American Western imperialism is bad, but Islamic imperialism and colonization is okay. That's the danger of DEI. That's the danger of multiculturalism and diversity gone wrong. But let me tell you something, and we're going to get into the videos very soon. After 47 years of Islamic occupation by a brutal and totalitarian dictatorship that is in its very core, in its very nature, anti-Iranian, after 47 years of being oppressed, tortured, raped, murdered, executed, hanged by these Islamic invaders in the name of Allah and Muhammad and jihad and whatever, Iranians have had enough. And a lot of people are asking, why aren't the Iranian people rising up? Well, I have footage to share with you. New footage, breaking footage coming out of occupied Iran that's showing Iranian people are once again rising up. Because after what happened on January 8 and 9, after the slaughter of over 40,000 innocent unarmed Iranians in 2 days alone, there is an ocean of blood. And these are the words of His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi, the Shah of Iran. Not just the Shah of Iran, but the leader of Iran's National Lion and Sun Revolution. And he says that after the massacre of January 8 and 9, 2026, there is an ocean of blood between Iranians and the Islamic regime. And there is no going back. Because the only way that we Iranians can honor the lives of those innocent people murdered by the Islamic regime on the path to freedom is to make sure that their sacrifice is not in vain. And so the best way to honor their memory is to continue pushing forward because we are so close to the finish line. And after 47 years, I'm telling you, we are finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. That gives us hope. That gives us the determination that we need to move forward. That gives people the confidence to know that the end is finally near. And that is why today, right now, in occupied Iran, Iranians are rising up once again, despite being unarmed, despite knowing the risks of doing so, despite knowing that in January 8 and 9, the Islamic regime brutally slaughtered over 40,000 innocent unarmed Iranians. And by the way, guys, the number is much higher than 40,000. We just don't know how high it goes. But what we do know for a fact is that it is at least 40,000. Having said that, I'm Goldie, former Canadian politician, geopolitical analyst, and human rights activist, and you are watching The Goldie Show. Welcome, and let's get started. Guys, I do see that there are some super chats. I just want to let you know, so the way that this live stream is going to work is I'm going to share footage and I'm going to explain it with all of you, and we'll go over it. And then after I'm done sharing the footage, I will go to all of your questions and comments and the super chats. So if I don't answer them right away, that's okay. Just I will do it at the end of the show because I just kind of want to go through everything uninterrupted. I also do think that Mark Levin is going live in about 13 minutes. So we might tune in to Mark Levin. Look at Newton. Newton's saying, this is a super chat. Read me. Okay, there you go. Only because it's you, Newton. There we go. This is a super chat. Read me. All right. Thanks, Newton. All right. But let's just dive right in because there's a lot to go through and I want to share this footage with you. And guys, by the way, I am working on a video as well. And that video is going to have some exclusive footage coming out of occupied Iran that hasn't been shared before. So stay tuned for that as well. Okay, so let's just get right into this. So Iran International posted about an hour ago, right? So guys, the first video that I'm about to share with you literally just came out an hour ago, okay? That's how new the footage is that I'm sharing with you. So Iran International says, a video received by Iran International shows that on Saturday, protesting students, so they're referring to university students, protesting students in front of the Supreme Council of the Cultural Revolution. Guys, Supreme Council of Cultural Revolution is basically just another way of saying, Islamic culture, right? So the Cultural Revolution they're talking about is Sharia law, right? The culture of, forcing 9-year-old girls to get married. It's the culture of saying that women are not equal to men. That's Sharia law culture. That's what this is. So students chanted in front of the Supreme Council of Cultural Revolution, shouting, "Khosrow, come down," at the secretary of this body to make him respond to them. They are protesting the resolution on the impact of the 11th grade GPA in the university entrance exam. So basically, what's happening is that because the internet has been shut down because of the conflict, first of all, I don't even know, that's the first thing we have to even just talk about is in what reality does it make sense to shut down internet and communications inside a country if it's currently engaged in, war? Wouldn't you want internet and communications to be running so that you can actually communicate with, the civilian population, where is safe and where is not, right? Wouldn't you actually want to make sure, and I say this as a former politician, like a former government member, if for some reason, let's say, God forbid, Canada was in a war, I wouldn't say, oh my gosh, we're being attacked, let's shut down the internet, let's shut down all forms of communication so that people don't know and can't communicate as to where the attacks are, right? Guys, the reason that the Islamic regime shut down communications and shut down the internet is because they wanted to maximize the potential for civilian casualties, because they wanted Iranians to not know what's going on, even though the IDF and the United States were giving out warnings and messages about, okay, we're going to target here, we're going to target here. If there's any civilians, evacuate the area. So the IDF was communicating that, United States was communicating that. The Islamic regime shut down the internet so that Iranians don't get those messages, because they were hoping that Iranians just become casualties of war so that the Islamic regime can use that against the United States and Israel. Like that's the level of brutality. Like that's the level of evilness we're talking about here, okay? Because I can't think of a single good reason why a government would shut down the internet during wartime. It's literally messed up. But I mean, that's welcome to the Islamic regime. Welcome to the horrific reality that we Iranians have been dealing with for the last 47 years, right? Okay, so, but there are other consequences to having the internet shut down. And one of those consequences was that university students and high school students were not able to properly complete their education. And now they're having issues with the entrance exams because they weren't able to, first of all, like all schools were shut down, right? All schools were shut down, so no one was going to school. The internet was shut down as well, which means the online virtual learning wasn't happening anyway. And yet, despite all of that, the Islamic regime is still forcing these students who weren't able to complete their studies, they're forcing them to do the entrance exams, which means that they're pretty much all going to fail. And if they fail, they will never have an opportunity to continue higher education and higher learning. That's not necessarily a bad thing in the view of the Islamic regime, because the Islamic regime wants a population that is not educated. The Islamic regime does not want Iranians to be educated or successful, because an educated population is the worst nightmare of Islam. It's actually the reason why back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s, when the Pahlavi dynasty was there and they were building schools all across the country. And the former Shah of Iran, Shahanshah Aryamir, when he was building schools so that women could learn how to read and write, the Muslim clerics did not like that. The Muslim clerics saw that as a threat to Islam. And actually, one of the main reasons why the Islamic coup d'etat took place in 1979 was triggered by the White Revolution of the Shah in 1963. Because in 1963, the Shah of Iran gave women, Iranian women, the right to vote. And the Muslim clerics did not like that. Because the Muslim clerics know that an educated population is not necessarily going to accept Islam. And they've always relied on that uneducated population. So what's happening right now is they're basically trying to recreate the Iran that existed before the Pahlavi dynasty came into place. And if you want to learn more about that historical part of Iran and what was happening, prior to 1979, I encourage you to go watch my live stream from last night. It was a documentary watch party. You can find it in my YouTube playlist, Iranians Rate Documentaries About Iran. And we go over all of that. There is literal documented proof that the Muslim clerics back in the 60s and 70s did not like the fact that the Shah of Iran was educating women. They did not like the fact that women were holding top-level government positions. They viewed that as a threat to Islam. That's not me. That's not me saying it. I'm literally sharing historical fact. And if that makes you uncomfortable, I don't care, because that's the truth. And if that makes you uncomfortable, that's because those same Islamists have conditioned you to think that criticizing their 7th century ideology is Islamophobic. And Islamophobic is a made-up word. But that's a whole other conversation for another time. Let's go to this video where the Islamic regime is purposely trying to sabotage the educational future of young Iranian students. And these brave young Iranian students are having none of it. So this protest footage is from today. So I know a question that a lot of you will have is, why is the footage so grainy? Why is it blurry? Why can't we see high quality protest videos coming out of occupied Iran? There's a very good reason for that. The reason that the protest videos that you're seeing are blurry and low quality is because Iran is occupied by a terrorist organization. Iran is occupied by Muslim Nazis. The very fact that these young people are protesting against the Islamic regime, that is basically enough to risk their lives. And if any of them are identified, they could be hanged. They could be hanged for the crime of muharibah, which in English translates to waging war against Allah. That's why protest videos coming out of occupied Iran. No, it's not about phones from 2010. That's not it at all whatsoever. The videos are blurred on purpose. The videos are blurred on purpose so that it makes it more difficult to identify people based on their faces. Because if you're identified, there's a very, very high likelihood that there's a midnight knock on your door, you're dragged away, never to be seen again. And if you get a midnight knock on your door, if you're lucky, they kill you right away. If you're unlucky, they drag you away, they torture you, they rape you, they torture your family with photos of them torturing you and raping you. And then you get a slow death. And the way that they execute you is that they wrap a rope around your neck, they attach it to a crane, and they slowly lift you up. They don't lift you up quickly, right? Because if they lift you up quickly, then your neck will snap and you'll die instantly. No. They don't do that. The way that the Islamic regime hangs innocent Iranians is that they lift you up slowly. It usually takes between 10 minutes to 30 minutes to die of asphyxiation because they want you to feel the pain and the suffering. And the entire time that you're slowly suffocating to death as you're hanging from this noose from a crane, they're at the bottom and they're chanting Allahu Akbar over and over and over again. So think about that. When you hear the news of Iranians being executed, hanged by the Islamic regime, it's not a quick death. It's a slow, torturous, painful death. And the entire time that you're slowly choking to death, all you hear is Allahu Akbar over and over and over again. That's their religion. That's their ideology. That's what jihad looks like. And yet, for some reason, when we Iranians speak about it, we're accused of Islamophobia. So it's okay for the Muslim Nazi occupiers to murder us in the name of Allah and Islam and jihad and whatever. That's totally fine. But if we want to talk about it, if we want to expose it, oh no, that's Islamophobia. That's Islamophobia. Yeah. Someone says, my Iranian friend says people are not protesting in Iran. Well, I mean, your Iranian friend is probably either with the Islamic regime or you're probably just a troll. So I'm going to ban you because, like, I don't understand. Like, if trolls, please. Like, you're coming into a live stream that's literally run by an Iranian with direct contacts in occupied Iran. So, I mean, if you want to spread your, Islamic jihadi propaganda, you're in the wrong channel. Like, don't come to an Iranian live stream and try to Iran-splain my own country to me. Like, you're going to have a bad time, right? Like, you're going to have a bad time because I'm not going to tolerate that nonsense. And I'm not even going to debate you. Oh, wait, is Mark Levin live? Okay, let's go to Mark Levin. Is he speaking about Iran? That's what I want to know. All right, let's see if Mark Levin is speaking about Iran. Jeez. Sorry, guys, give me one moment.
Historic Jewish presence where Abraham and Sarah are buried. Today, 99% of the population there is Arab. 85 Jewish families are left. Christianity's roots are dated back to the 1st century CE, some 2,000 years ago and before. Islam was founded in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century, about 1,400 years ago. Today, Christianity represents 33% of the world's population, Islam 21%, and there's 15 million Jews left in the world. The truth is, if there hadn't been all of these efforts to slaughter Jews throughout history, 4,000 years, Dory Gold, a great scholar, once told me, there'd be as many Jews in the world as there are Chinese, 1.5 billion. Before the 7th century Islamic conquests, nearly the entire Middle East was majority Christian.
Yeah.
Lebanon had a Christian majority well into the 20th century. Christians are now a substantial minority, making up 35 to 40% of the population there. Syria and Egypt, before the 7th century, the populations of Syria and Egypt were overwhelmingly Christian. Egypt maintained a Christian majority for centuries, even after the Islamic conquest. And today, Coptic Christians make up about 10% of the Egyptian population, and they are brutalized and badly treated. Iraq, before the advent of Islam, similarly, was majority Christian. Turkey, Asia Minor. Prior to World War I, Christians made up approximately 25% of the Ottoman Empire, 1% today. Today, Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus and the home to the Church of the Nativity, was not long ago 85% Christian. Today, it's 85% Palestinian. What about the Jewish population? Obviously, before Christianity, well before Islam. What about it? By 1945, it was down to 856,000 Jews that lived in the Arab world. Today, almost no Jews live in the Arab world. There's a few thousand. Most of them are Morocco, 2,000 Jews in Morocco, 1,000 Jews in Tunisia. Now there's 8,000 Jews, less than 8,000 Jews in Iran, because they can't get out. Until 7 decades ago, Baghdad was amongst the most Jewish cities in the world. By the 20th century, 40% of Baghdad's population were Jews, 40%. Today, the number of Jews in Iraq is counted on the fingers of one hand. Egypt currently has the lowest number of Jewish residents, 3. Wow. 3. And that's compared to approximately 100,000 before 1948. 1,000 in Tunisia, I mentioned, 2,000 in Morocco, 50 in Algeria, 50. 30 in Syria, 20 in Lebanon, 5 in Yemen, 4 in Iraq. Now that's pretty amazing, don't you think? The first religion in the Middle East, non-existent, really, everywhere but in Israel. Christianity, the second major religion, born of the same Holy Land, virtually non-existent. And what's left of the Christians are being slaughtered in Syria, slaughtered in Yemen, and slaughtered wherever else they exist in the Arab world.
Yep.
Almost nothing has been written about the Jews who fled their homes in Iraq and Syria and Egypt and Algeria and the rest of the Arab Muslim world when we talk about events today.
They fled to Iran. They fled to
Same with
Iran.
the Christians.
Well,
By
before
the end of the
1979.
16th century, the Jewish population in the Ottoman Empire was about 150,000. That's Turkey. Today, it's about 14,000. About 14,000. See, we have a modern crusade going on today, spreading through all of Europe, spreading through Africa.
I just spoke about
Christians
this.
being slaughtered in Nigeria and Sudan and Congo. They get some talk about it, but not much. You see the movements taking place throughout Europe, this crusade. London's been conquered, Paris has been conquered, other cities and so forth have been conquered. Numerous mosques and Islamic segregated communities are popping up throughout the Western world, including in our country. Huge numbers, and I'll get to that in a minute. So you can see why the Israelis, majority Jewish, but also Muslim and Christian, other minorities there, Druze and so forth, they're surrounded in a tiny country the size of New Jersey. There's over 50 Muslim countries in the world, this one little country. And the European countries that can't even defend their own cultures and their own populations are demanding that the Israelis surrender theirs. Just more land, you see. The Palestinians, you remove them from your land. Let me ask you something. If people have been in one place nearly 4,000 years, how is that not their land? They're the indigenous peoples. We have indigenous Native American tribes in our country that don't go back 4,000 years. As a matter of fact, Texas and most of the Southwest and the West, we conquered those from Mexico and some other countries, and we acquired them. In my view, one of the greatest presidents in American history who gets no attention at all is James Polk. The left hates him, of course, but you can thank him for most of these states that we have. Would we ever think about returning these states to Mexico? Well, there are Marxist movements in our country that say we should. I wrote an entire book on it called American Marxism. So what are the Israelis supposed to do when they're surrounded by enemies, some of whom have become acquiescent, but many of which have not? So now let's talk about paper deals with terrorist organizations. Deals with terrorist organizations. Do they work? Well, today isn't the first day of this. You know, the world didn't begin today. Iran has entered into many deals. Lebanon has entered into deals. Here's one from 1983. Menachem Begin, the prime minister of Israel, and the Israeli IDF, they had to go into Lebanon. Sound familiar? Because there were terrorist organizations that were attacking Israel. Sound familiar again? And they were slaughtering people in Israel. Now, these terrorist organizations, Islamist organizations, they secreted themselves into Lebanon, which was a majority Christian country. They assassinated the president, who was Christian. They created a civil war. Who was behind all this? Anybody know? Raise your hand. The Islamist Nazi regime in Tehran. Hezbollah is their creation.
Yes.
Hezbollah is their creation. Israel said, we're defending ourselves. We've had enough of this. So there was a paper deal right here, an agreement. And guess what happened? Hezbollah ripped it up. They wouldn't comply with it. Guess what else happened? The Lebanese government and military wasn't strong enough to stop them. Sound familiar? Does to me. Let's talk about the mothership, the Islamist Nazi regime in Tehran, because that's what it is. They're signing agreements all over the place. They're making promises. Here's one. They agreed to UN Resolution 2231 in 2015 on the Iran nuclear issue. Pursuant to the process and so forth and so on, we got all kinds of sections. It's long. Well, it goes on and on and on, all these agreements that they agreed to do. What happened? They ripped it up. Oh, okay. We have more. They signed on to the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Wow. What happened to that one? Well, you know, come on. They ripped it up. The Iran nuclear agreement in 2015, our president wisely ripped it up himself. Why? Because it paved the way for them to get a nuclear weapon in 10 to 12 years. And they were working on it. But still, they were impatient, the regime in Iran. They were violating all the protocols. They were breaking through all the red lines.
Yeah.
Now, you might say, well, the president took us out of that deal. He did, wisely so. But Iran was still committed to the deal. Uh-oh. What happened to that deal? Oh, my goodness. The Iranian regime...
Islamic regime. Islamic.
Ignored it. But we have a new deal now. So Israel has a deal with the government of Lebanon, brokered by us. It's a so-called ceasefire. Now, ceasefire used to mean cease fire, not fire. Ceasefire. But apparently it has a different meaning in the Middle East today. And so Hezbollah's already ripped it up. So what is a deal with the government of Lebanon like if they can't enforce compliance by Hezbollah? And why is Hezbollah doing this? Who does Hezbollah work for? The mothership. Iran. Well, why isn't Iran telling Hezbollah to cut it out? I thought we're working with easy to work with them. They're got a good deal. Why do you think? Why do you think? So Hezbollah, I hate to do this. They've ripped up our beautiful deal. And it is a good deal. I just read it. It's a good deal. Well, why doesn't Hezbollah do what they're supposed to do? Because Hezbollah, like the Islamist regime in Tehran, they have an ideology. Hezbollah put out a letter in 1985 stating exactly what it intended to do. Obliterate Israel, push the Jews out of Israel, obliterate the United States or anybody else who stands in their way in the West. Have they forsworn that? I haven't heard that. Have you? No. So where are we headed with all this? I do not blame our president for trying to make a deal. You want to know why? Because the problem is with the people in our country. Not all of you, Mr. and Mrs. America, but other people. Leftists, Marxists, Islamists, and others who don't believe that we should have stopped Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, who don't believe that we should take out Hezbollah or allow the Israelis to do it, who don't believe that we should win this war in Iran, who want cut and run, who want off-ramps, who tell us that this is a fantasy war and They want to use it for political reasons and so forth and so on. And they've convinced 70% of the American people, not MAGA, 70% of the general population. What the hell are we doing? We don't want them to get nuclear weapons, but we want this thing to be over right away. I mean, good Lord, we're paying $1 more for a gallon of gasoline. The psychology is way off here. The will to survive is way off here. I do not blame the president who's trying hard to do the right thing and has done the right thing. We the people, do we have the will to live? Look what we're doing to ourselves here. The Democrat Party is actually supporting candidates for Congress who were neo-Nazis, communists, economic socialists, radical Islamists with al-Qaeda ties, who are openly Jew haters, Christian haters, and America haters. And the Democrats are putting them up for nomination. They won't condemn them, the leadership.
Shameful. Shameful.
You've got people like Bernie Sanders. This is his heyday. He's thrilled. He's an old Stalinist. He's excited. And the Democratic Socialists of America taking their orders from China and other places and so forth and so on. And here's a report right here that just came out. It's fantastic. From the Foundation of Defense and Democracies. Our good dear friends, the Qataris, have spent over $400 billion to try and destroy our country, a nation of 300,000 people.
Yeah.
Why are they spending $400 billion in America?
Because Qatar's a terrorist
And the
state.
communist Chinese are doing the same thing, and the Russians.
Qatar's a terrorist state.
Podcaster love Putin. One of them is over there visiting Russia right now. Oh, the subway system is fantastic, don't you know? The Democrat Party candidates, they trash American history. They libel our founding fathers. They reject our Declaration of Independence. They detest our constitutional system. Hakeem Jeffries has just announced he's going to destroy it. And the clapping seals in the Democrat Party agree with what he says. This is our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. It's not a very long time ago. The Roman Republic lasted about 500 years. The empire about another 500 years. Are we going to last 500 years? Are we going to last another 100 years? Well, what the Democrat Party and these movements are doing into our country, that crusade I talked about in Europe, it's happening in America right now. Right now.
It's not a crusade, it's jihad. You're using
and guess
the wrong
what this
word.
September is?
He should say
the 25th
jihad.
anniversary of 9/11. And the Democrats just nominated a man with ties to the blind sheik who tried to blow up the two towers in New York. And they have members of Congress with ties in promoting terrorist organizations from the Middle East. They have Marxists who want to destroy our country from within. And so far, there's one person stopping them, President Trump, but the Democrat Party, with their mayor, Mondami, in New York City, with their mayor in Dearborn, Michigan, with their mayor in Paterson, New Jersey, with their efforts to expand this movement, because all they care about is power. Remember what I've told you. Marxists want power. The party comes first. The country comes second. The party controls the country. This Marxist Islamist fusion in our own country is taking place right now. Mark, you sound very extremist. I am not extremist. I am very rational. I see what's taking place around us. It's a 5-alarm fire. I'll be right back.
Guys, I was literally just talking about the Crusades and how the Crusades were a response to jihad. Guys, I agree with everything Mark Levin is saying here. The only thing that I would say is that I think he's referring to like the Islamic expansion as crusades. That's jihad. Like the response to jihad, like the Crusades were a response to jihad. Guys, if you haven't seen this video, you need to go watch this. Let me share this during the commercial break. This is like younger Goldie. This is from like 5 months ago. I posted this video. It's called Stop Apologizing for the Crusades. This is like before the revolution started. But just, I will play this. I'll keep an eye on the commercials because as soon as Mark Levin comes back, We're going to go back, but just watch this. Watch this. It'll give you a little bit of context. We don't apologize. We don't justify. We don't make excuses. In fact, we're still fighting. We are still fighting to overthrow the Arab Muslim invaders and to reclaim our country from the Islamic dictatorship. So we have been fighting for 1400 years. Unfortunately, unlike you white people, we still have not been successful. If you need more convincing that the Crusades were a good thing and that the Crusades actually saved Europe from the Arab Muslim invaders, here is a 5-minute video from Dr. Bill Warner. Pay attention because this is kind of important.
Whenever you're dealing with an apologist for Islam or even a Muslim and you bring up jihad, almost immediately they kick back to you. Well, what about those terrible crusades? Why, they're the moral justification for jihad. I mean, we're just as bad as they are, so let's not talk about jihad, okay? Let's talk about the crusades. Well, what I would like to talk about here are facts. And it turns out I sat down and put together some work and I created a database of some 548 battles that Islam fought, jihad battles against classical civilization. And these aren't even all the battles. It really doesn't say much about Africa and India, Afghanistan and all that. It's primarily the battles against the classical civilization of Rome and Greece. So 548 battles is a lot, and it's too much to even comprehend. So I created something which I call a dynamic battle map, in which you have a display of the Mediterranean, and a white dot means that this 20-year period, that's a new battle. So every time the screen changes, it's 20-year period. The colors white turn to red, so you can see a history. This may seem a little confusing, but I think when you see it, you'll know exactly what I mean. And here it starts. Islam burst out of the Arabian Peninsula and immediately starts attacking the Middle East.
So guys, this is like what Mark Levin was talking about. So before the Middle East became majority predominantly Muslim, the Middle East was Christian. It was like a mix of like Christian and Jewish, and of course Iran was Zoroastrian, right? So Islam, you know, is basically like, oh wait, Mark Levin's coming back. Let's go to him and then we'll continue.
We're here with our good friend Rebecca Heinrichs and Hudson Institute Senior Fellow, Keystone Defense Initiative Director. Welcome back, Rebecca. A couple of things I'd like to pursue with you. What do you see as a good deal? Is there a good deal? As long as it's backed up by military might, how do you analyze what's taking place right now?
Well, I think President Trump's red lines are exactly right. I'm extremely skeptical that the IRGC, the Iranian militants, are going to accept the deal. But President Trump has said, look, like, we're not going to lift the blockade.
I'm gonna take it. Sorry, I'm going to a different channel because this one's better.
Welcome back, America. We're here with our good friend Rebecca Heinrichs and
Better
Hudson
quality.
Institute Senior Fellow, Keystone Defense Initiative Director. Welcome back, Rebecca. A couple of things I'd like to pursue with you. What do you see as a good deal? Is there a good deal? As long as it's backed up by military might, how do you analyze what's taking place right now?
Well, I think President Trump's red lines are exactly right. I'm extremely skeptical that the IRGC, the Iranian militants, are going to accept the deal. But President Trump has said, look, like, we're not going to lift the blockade in exchange for the Iranians simply promising to work on their nuclear program. We're only going to remove the blockade if the IRGC opens the strait completely, does not charge a toll, gets back to keeping the Strait of Hormuz Hormuz as international waters. And that so far is not what the Iranians are willing to do. The president has also said that phase two, really articulated by Marco Rubio, phase two is if the strait is totally open, we get back to the way it was before Epic Fury, then we would have a real, no kidding, dismantling of the Iranian nuclear program. All of its enriched uranium has to get out of the country, and the United States is either going to do this in cooperation with the IRGC, which again, I don't believe that the IRGC will cooperate with us, or we will take it by force. So I am very skeptical that the Iranians are going to cooperate. But according to the president's own red lines of what would be a good deal, I think that that would be in the interest of the United States.
To me, the issue comes down to enforcement. How are these things going to be enforced for exactly the reasons you state? And it also seems to me if there are going to be red lines, and there are, they have to be enforced during his presidency. Because I don't see this happening after his presidency. If a Democrat's elected, I don't see anything getting enforced. And I see the Iranians thumbing their noses, they always do. What do you make of that?
Well, right. So what President Trump has done is he really has a vice around the IRGC, and he's not moving it. He's not releasing any pressure. While he continues this, really opportunity for the Iranians to negotiate. What do I mean by that? We have them in a total economic vice. $500 million being deprived to the IRGC through the blockade. At the same time, the State Department continues to announce more sanctions on these entities and networks that the Iranians are using to try to evade American sanctions, including in Hong Kong, which, by the way, is China. China is trying to help the Iranians evade sanctions. So the Iranian central bank, in fact, just announced that there's 2 million more Iranian youth who are unemployed now. So as the Iranians continue to resist a deal that works for the United States, it's the Iranians who are paying a price, but it's because of the Iran regime. So President Trump is willing to keep all of this in place while he negotiates. And of course, our central command is still taking out IRGC launchers, taking out their command and control in these islands in the Strait of Hormuz every time they fire at American ships. Do I think that another American president will do that while it attempts to negotiate? I don't think so.
Now, what about China? There's other countries too, but China's observing this. They're watching this. You think they're impressed? You think they're not impressed? Or what?
So I think it's a bit of a mixed bag. Obviously, China is watching everything the United States does vis-a-vis Iran, which I think is why the stakes are so high. So as you really articulated so well, the IRGC obviously is still committed to the Islamic Revolution. It's still funding proxy groups in the region, destabilizing the Middle East. It's also a proxy for China. China, the Chinese Communist Party, backs and supports the Iranians through evading sanctions. And of course, China would love for the United States to essentially back out of the region in the Middle East and let Iran maintain coercive control over the Strait of Hormuz, because that means China has control over the Strait of Hormuz because China backs Iran. That's why it's so important that when we end this conflict finally, it has to be through the United States imposing its will on Iran, not asking the Iranians to let us open the strait, but enforcing it, because we do not want China to have it. Last point on this. The United States, because of the direction of President Trump, demonstrated overwhelming military force and military competency, both in Midnight Hammer and in Epic Fury. And you know the Chinese have to be impressed by that.
See, my concern here is beyond 3 years, beyond 5 years. Do I think the Iranian regime will honor anything? And the answer is no.
Yeah, I agree.
Why would they? They've seen how our country reacts, not Donald Trump, I'm talking about post-Donald Trump. They see what Congress is saying. They see what our media is saying. They see what these woke right buffoons are saying and the isolationists are saying and so forth. Speaking of, when we come back, because your expertise is beyond the Middle East, what do you make of people, woke right, going to Russia and making a big deal of it, talking about how fantastic it is over there? It seems like there's a conga line of these people doing it. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Are you done?
All right. So let's continue with the crusade video that I was sharing with you, and then we'll go back to Mark Levin. So let me just go back a little bit here.
Know exactly what I mean. And here it starts. Islam burst out of the Arabian Peninsula. and immediately starts attacking the.
Yeah, so this is what I was saying before Mark Levin returned. So everything he was talking about is what Dr. Bill Warner has spoken about, what myself and others have spoken about. Guys, the Middle East was not originally Muslim. Islam only belongs to like Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, and like the UAE or whatever, right? Like this is the only place where Islam is like native to. Like the rest of the Middle East was not Muslim. The only reason it's predominantly Muslim now is because of jihad, because they literally murdered everyone who didn't convert.
Middle East. And notice that it doesn't take long until they're crossing the.
So do you see here? Do you see how within the span of just a couple of decades, Iran became conquered, right? That's jihad. And like I said, they didn't come with flowers and pamphlets. They came with violence, death, destruction, rape, and forced conversions.
Mediterranean and attacking southern France and Spain. Notice something here. Most people think of Islam, they think of Arabs, they think of desert. And yet here we see that Islam is projecting power throughout the Mediterranean.
Also, pay attention. Do you see Spain? At this point, Spain has been conquered by the Arab Muslim invaders. And again, every single red dot here, every single red dot is an instance of jihad. That is a battle that was initiated by the Arab Muslim invaders. Okay, so pay attention to these dots because we're then going to compare these dots of jihad versus the dots of the Crusades.
Notice how the little islands of the Mediterranean are getting hammered. The navy of Islam would attack coastal towns, kill, rob, rape, and then take slaves. So this whole battle map, as it unfolds, you're seeing slaves being taken. Over 1 million slaves were taken out of Europe into the Islamic world. That's something you don't think about much, but it's absolutely true. There were over 200 battles fought in Spain alone. And we also see, however, on the East Coast in Turkey, that Islam is trying to break into Europe. Now, what's going to happen is in Spain, this ongoing fight that lasted for 400 years, is the Christians are going to push back the Muslims. But now then what has happened over in the East is that Constantinople has fallen, and now then Eastern Europe is getting hammered. The jihad now comes to Eastern Europe. It's pushed out now of Spain, Northern Africa.
One person who opened fire on a crowd near a busy community street festival. Police say multiple people are hurt and have been taken to nearby hospitals for treatment. This all happening just after 5:30 local time. It's not clear what led up to the shooting. Again, police are looking for at least one person who fired into a crowd at a Toledo, Ohio festival. Multiple people are hurt. Stay with Fox News Channel for more on that latest developing story. Also, an Auburn University student who went missing in Japan has been found dead after a days-long search. James Weston Higginbotham's family confirms the 20-year-old's body was found by a search and rescue team. It's not clear how he died. His family says he decided to spend time on his own after a small disagreement with his mother. I'm Shelley Painter. Now back to Life, Liberty, and Live It.
Welcome back, America. We're here with our friend Rebecca Heinrichs. Rebecca, what do you make of these sojourns, these weird trips that some of these woke right types, REICH is the way I put it anyway, go to Russia? They're praising Putin. I think people have written about it. Russia has a big PSYOP operation going on in our country, and it seemed to affecting some of these podcasters and so forth. What do you make of this?
Well, what's first of all interesting to me is that all of these people in the podcast world on the American right, the first indication that they are essentially going to take an anti-American stance is they're anti-Semitic. They're openly anti-Semitic. And when you're anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, there's a direct correlation that you're also, in fact, anti-American, which makes you pro-Russian Federation.
So I'm just going to say really quickly, because I know the major actual is here. If you want to know the answer, you have to watch Yuri Bezmenov. Major, I know exactly what you're going to say. I've done a Yuri Bezmenov watch party, but I feel like I need to do another Yuri Bezmenov watch party. You want to know why all these people are being like infiltrated with Marxist and Islamist ideology? Yuri Bezmenov explains everything, and it's a wild interview. It's from 1984. It's crazy.
But you have these people clearly being supported by the Russian government to do this propaganda to try to claim to Americans and to evangelicals like myself, trying to claim that actually we have it all wrong, that Israel's bad and that Russia's in fact good. It's totally wrong and very damaging, I think, Mark.
You know, early on in the history of Israel, Israel had a choice to make. To either join the side of Russia or join the side of the United States. Because Russia was very early in recognizing the new state of Israel. Many of the founders came out of Europe and many of them were socialists.
Major always has
and
the
Russia
best
thought they had a real shot at having a foothold in the Middle East. And Israel said, no, we are going to align ourselves with the United States. And since then, Russia's been very hostile to Israel, very hostile to every government in Israel there and so forth and so on. I just wanted the public to understand this, and is very hostile to it today. People might say, well, why is that? But that's one of the main reasons why that is the way it is. And so that sort of puts a fine point on your point with the anti-Semitism, anti-Israel, pro-Russia perspective, and ultimately anti-American perspective. So you agree with me, you see this happening a lot with the woke right? What about Russia? Are they working a PSYOP operation in our country too?
Well, I think it's very clear that the effect is you see that the pro-Russia argument making its way into these influencers on the right and to even some members of Congress who are making the argument that Russia is the one that's right and not Ukraine. Regardless of what you think about the United States is the degree to support we should give Ukraine, you should have moral clarity to understand that Russia is persecuting Christians in occupied Ukraine. It is targeting Christian churches in Ukraine. Russia is the one that is hostile to the United States and the West. Ukraine wants to be part of the West. So you are seeing this influence operation that is seeking to confuse Americans. And remember, Russia supports Iran in the United States' efforts to get rid of the Iran regime, because there is this axis of authoritarian powers. It's China, it's Russia, it's Iran, and it's a North Korea against the United States-led West, which of course in the West includes our great ally in the Middle East, Israel.
All right, and I do notice that Israel's taking steps towards more independence. It's building alliances with India, with Greece, with Argentina, with some of the other countries. It's military industry and technology industry, which is really quite cutting edge. They're beginning to really sell and get into that market, particularly with Iron Dome type activity and so forth. So I think Netanyahu said, we want to be more of a partner so that they can make independent decisions and not be told, I think, no, you can't take out Hezbollah. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. I think that's where they're heading anyway. Final words.
Well, I certainly don't blame Bibi Netanyahu for making that decision, trying to make Israel less dependent on the decisions of the American people, essentially, because they've watched, as you said in your opening remarks, they've watched what Americans have done become more anti-Semitic, anti-Semitism on the left, beginning to this horseshoe happening on the right. But I would say for Americans listening, we would be deprived of the great alliance we have with Israel if we don't have this strong military cooperation. If it wasn't for Israel's incredible intelligence operation to penetrate the Iran regime, we would not have had the great military success in collaboration with Israel that we've had against the Iranian regime. So we need that alliance. It's not just, Israel is not simply taking from the United States. We are a great alliance together to the great benefit of the United States, to Americans, and to the West.
And Israel takes that $3.8 billion a year. They don't get cash. We keep it here. We spend it on in our military industry. to provide that with our military equipment, and they use it on the ground, and we learn a lot from that, and they improve our weapons, and they give us the technology back for free. There's a lot there that people don't understand. Rebecca Heinrichs, I want to thank you very, very much. You're very brave, intelligent. We love to have you.
What a fantastic conversation. Okay, let me go back and share the rest of this video with you about the Crusades, because I know we've gone a little bit off topic, but like this is important. Like guys, like I was literally speaking about why Iranians are rising up because we're engaged in like a 1400-year long crusade, and then Mark Levin today was literally talking about jihad and the Crusades. I feel like I'm vibing, like I'm on the same wavelength as Mark Levin right now.
What's happened over in the East is that Constantinople has fallen, and now then Eastern Europe is getting hammered. The jihad now comes to Eastern Europe. It's pushed out now of Spain. Northern Africa is now completely Islamic. The Middle East is completely Islamic. This is all jihad, relentless jihad. And why is it so relentless? Well, Muhammad was relentless in his jihad. And these people are good students of Islam, and so it's against the kafir, on and on. It was traditional that when the Sultan came to power, the brand new Sultan, he would immediately try to launch new wars because he was going to be noted in his Islamic history as to how well he fought against the kafir. So that's what the jihad looked like over that time period, 548 battles. But remember, when you bring up jihad, people want to bring up the Crusades. So I also prepared a dynamic battle map of all the offensive raids of the Crusaders. Let's watch it and make a comparison.
Guys, this is gonna blow your mind. This is gonna so compare the Crusades to Islamic jihad. Compare them, Crusades versus jihad. It's wild. Like it's wild when you actually visualize it. You actually realize how much you've been lied to. You're literally being lied to. And that's why like this entire video is basically me saying like white people stop apologizing for the Crusades because the Arab Muslim invaders are using like white guilt against you. So like stop apologizing for the Crusades. You literally did nothing wrong. The Crusades is what literally saved your culture. Stop apologizing for it. You should be proud of the Crusades.
And so it begins. The Crusades enter into Turkey and the Middle East. Battles go on, but aren't there far fewer than you thought there might be? And here we go. The last battles are...
That's it. Do you see these dots here? That is every single crusade. You can't even like you can't even compare. Like there's literally no comparison between Islamic jihad and the Crusades.
Were fought, and that is the end of the Crusades. So now then we can talk about some facts. Yes, there were Crusades, but notice they ended centuries ago, and jihad is being practiced today. Jihad has been with us for 1,400 years. There is no comparison between jihad and the Crusades, certainly not a moral comparison. And when you're looking at the Crusades, remember, in one sense, all of the Crusades were defensive wars. Why? Well, as we saw in the first jihad map, it was Islam that came out of Arabia and conquered the Middle East, a Christian Middle East. And so the Crusaders were trying to free their Christian brothers and sisters from jihad. So there's no moral comparison at all. The motivation of the Crusaders was to free Christians. The purpose of jihad is to enslave the kafir.
Was that clear enough for you guys? So, what's the lesson that we have learned today? Stop apologizing for the Crusades. So I agree with past Goldie, but let's go to Mark Levin because he's coming up again.
We have a dear friend of mine, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser is running in the 4th Congressional District in Arizona. He's former U.S. Navy Lieutenant Commander. He is the founder of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. And I wanted you here for a very important reason, Zuhdi. You've spent your entire adult life defending America and opposing these radicals, these Islamists. And you've had many threats to your life. You've tried to organize people against them. And here you have the Democrat Party that's just nominated Adam Hamaway, past connections to Omar Abdul-Rahman, known as the Blind Sheik, who tried to blow up the two towers in New York, and he was convicted for that. Let's say he knew the Blind Sheik in the 1990s through the New Jersey Egyptian American community, traveled with him, translated press documents for him, testified on his behalf at the trial in 1995. What do you make of this secretion of these Islamists into the Democrat Party? And the Democrat Party doesn't even speak out against them. It embraces them, endorses them, puts money behind them to get them elected to Congress.
Yeah, you know, Mark, this is so important. And you and I have been talking about it for decades, since 9/11. And the United States has seen basically an evolution of initially the uploading of the software started by Obama in 1.0, became 2.0 with basically that dependency becoming a dismantling of our infrastructure and the Muslim Brotherhood infiltrating into U.S. institutions. And then ultimately now they've gone from terror cells around the United States and around the West into a civilizational jihadist movement within the institution where they can be protected the most, which is within Congress, where they don't have to get security clearances, where they can basically take over, as the Democratic Socialist Party of America has done with the party. They radicalize the Democrats, just like the Islamists radicalize Muslims. And basically, they've upgraded from Ilhan Omar to now Adam Hamawi. He claims, this guy is my age, by the way, he claims that he didn't know anything about the Blind Sheikh, and he testified for him because he just thought it was the right thing to do. He was translating for a guy who escaped from Egypt and was giving speeches about armed jihad, about the evil nature of Israel, about how insane the West was and secular democracy was evil and they had to defeat it. So there are many speeches in 91, 92, 93 that this guy, Sheikh Abdul-Rahman, gave. And Adam Hamawi, a radical Islamist now, has pretended as a physician. He didn't really matter. And listen, he's a vet, but just like Plattner's a vet. So this isn't just, you don't have to be an expert about Islamists to understand the danger of Adam Hamawi as a physician, as a vet. Plattner supposedly is a vet, but yet has an SS trooper tattoo on, which basically glorifies the Holocaust. And he's very anti-American and anti-Western. So at the end of the day, the Marxist jihadist axis has now come to complete fruition. The software is uploaded and they've taken over the left. And now I tell you, as horrifying as this is to me as an American, it's an opportunity, because they now have an opening for our independent voters, the folks, the rank and file and the Democrats, to come over to the Republican side and say, you know, listen, we're not going to take this radicalism. We want our country back. We want, you know, assimilation is not negotiable. And this is how we save our country, is to expose this ideology and its upload.
Brilliantly put. So Zuhdi Jasser, I want to pursue this with you further, because the Democrat Party really must hate America. The kind of people it's promoting, the kind of people it's embracing, its refusal to take any steps to stop these movements from leaching into their party. Now they're becoming their party, and I want to pursue that with you in a moment. We'll be right back.
Okay, let's go to some more footage while we're waiting for Mark Levin to finish up. So, guys, here is more like footage coming out of Iran that the Islamic regime does not want you to see. This is from January 8, and this is why the Islamic regime shut down the internet. So let's watch this together. And they're chanting Javid Shah, which means long live the king. So you can see, like, the protesters, like the Iranian freedom fighters, they're unarmed. They're not violent. They're literally chanting Javid Shah, which means long live the king. But you can hear the sound of bullets and gunfire. That's the Islamic regime shooting at them. That's the Islamic regime shooting at innocent, unarmed Iranians who just want freedom and democracy like you have. Guys, what you're watching here This is modern day jihad. This is modern day Islamists murdering anyone who says that they don't want to live under Sharia law. This is what jihad looks like. All right, so there's one. Let me share another one. Where my bookmarks at? Wait, give me a moment. What's going on? All right. Now here's another one. Oh, so guys, this is from tonight. So even tonight, Iranians. So this is new footage from tonight. Iranians are in their windows and they're chanting "Death to the Islamic Republic." Marg bar Jomhuri Islami. Marg bar means death to. And then Jomhuri is republic, and then Islami, of course, is Islamic. So they're literally chanting Marg bar Jomhuri Islami. And what's significant about this is that the Shah of Iran, His Royal Highness King Reza Pahlavi, his official comms account posted this video and shared it. So you can hear like someone is chanting "Death to the Islamic Republic" from their rooftop. Someone else who's very, very far away hears her voice and responds. And then there's someone in the middle who is recording the audio and recording everything that's going on. All right, let's go back to Mark Levin.
Zuhdi Jasser, are you concerned that you have these prominent Democrats who are on TV all the time and a microphone is stuck in their face? What do you think about Hamaway? What do you think about Plattner? And they're always sort of tap dancing or they're defending them. They put power, their own power, ahead of what's right for the country. And they're bringing these people into the government. It reminds me of the left in Europe that did exactly the same thing. And now Europe is overrun with these Islamists. What do you think?
You're 100% right. And, you know, my opponent in November, Greg Stanton, has been missing in action, takes his orders from Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer, and basically has not represented the people. And Americans are done with what's on the menu on the Democratic Party. And as you said, if you want to see where America's going with what the Democrats have put on their menu now with the Adam Hamawis, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omars, Abdul Abdusayed in Michigan, these guys, we're headed towards Europe, and Europe now is gone. It has lost its identity of democracy. It is now, London has had a Islamist mayor for over 10 years who has dismantled their program. If you look at Hamawi's campaign site, he makes no bones about it. It's our 250th anniversary. It has nothing about Americanism, patriotism, about the hope of America. It's all about dismantling ICE, dismantling Homeland Security, how America's to blame for everything. It's all about hate. And as I talk to voters in our district, I can tell you, Mark, they don't want that. They want to seal our borders. They want our country back. They want affordability back. And yet the Democrats are simply selling this foreign ideology via the Marxists like Plattner or via the Islamists like Adam Hamawi. So, yeah, they can go ahead and represent the Democrats all they want because it's going to cause a large sucking sound into conservatism, into the center of America to preserve our country, or we're going to lose it. Because if you look at Europe, Europe lost its democracy in the early 20th century because of this ripping apart into anti-Semitism and hate. And I, as a Muslim who loves this country, am the best person to prosecute this case in the halls of Congress and get back our country.
We have a lot of time left. Look at New York City. Mandami is the Marxist and Islamist. He's the fusion in human form right there. He's destroying their economy. He's destroying their private property rights. he is really allowing violence to occur against the Jewish population because, in my view, he wants to depopulate that city of Jews, repopulate it with Islamists, with illegal aliens and so forth. In other words, conquer the city, take over the city. Am I right about that?
100%. They divide the world into areas that are Muslim majority, that's the land of Islam, and the rest is sort of the land of war or the land of conquest or colonial imperialism, if you will. And they tried to get the Ground Zero Mosque, and they didn't have enough popular support back in 2010, but now they've uploaded all of these ideologies through the Democratic Socialist Party of America. Mamdani was right at Ground Zero, and just 20, 30 miles out, you've got New Jersey, and now you have Hamawi, and then more out, you've got other cities that they're continuing to advance this ideology. But the flyover America, the majority of America, does not want any of this. They want their ideologies back of Americanism, unabashedly, first liberty being freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and get back our family values that have been taken over by foreign ideologues. So, I have only hope for our country, and we are the last best hope. And I tell people to go to z4az.com, by the way.
There you go. Well, we better get our act together because this movement is moving fast and it's spreading across the country as it's spread across Europe. And it's not by accident. It's not a coincidence. It's intentional. No. Zudi.
Yeah, okay. So Mark Levin's about to end his show. Big red flag. When this guy was like, I as a Muslim, blah, blah, blah. I was like, ugh. Guys, that's a red flag. If you identify as a Muslim first and American second, red flag. I don't care. I don't care how reasonable the person is. I don't care. Because Islam, like if you're a true Muslim, you believe that your religion and Sharia law is above the laws of whatever country you're in. So he should have said, I as an American first and a Muslim second, blah, 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 blah. But he, like, maybe that was a Freudian slip. I don't know, because he was like, I as a Muslim. And I'm like, wait, what? What? Aren't you an American first? Like, what's going on here? Do you identify as American or Muslim? Because I don't go around saying, like, I as, like, whatever my religion is. I don't know. All I'm saying is that was a red flag. That was a red flag. I don't like that. I don't trust it. I don't. And that's because we Iranians, we've been literally dealing with jihad for 1400 years, right? Your country comes first and then your religion. He should have said, I as an American first. If he said, I as an American first, no problem. I would have been like, oh, great, okay. But he was like, as a Muslim. And I'm like, oh, what? I don't know, man. I'm just saying. I don't know. Anyway, so, yeah, that did not leave me with a good feeling at the end. I did not like that. Guys, we Iranians, like, we can spot the red flags like 10,000 miles away because we've been dealing with it, right? So we just see people and we're just like, oh, like, no, like, oh, right? And yeah, Dr. Cobra, you're absolutely right. Let me pull up the video. It goes back to what Khomeini said about patriotism, where he said Islam is first, and he said patriotism is the enemy of Islam. So, I don't know, man. A lot of them have, like, they have silver tongues. And they infiltrate. I don't know. I don't know this guy. I don't want to be disrespectful. All I'm saying is that the fact that he said, I'm a Muslim first, awkward. I don't like that. I don't like that. Right? It's just, it's too much. It's too much. Let me bring up what Khomeini said as a reminder, right? Let me bring up what Khomeini said. خبر مرگش که میدونم. Oh, by the way, I think yesterday was like Khomeini's like anniversary of his death or something, like خبر مرگش. Like, I wish he, whatever. Anyways, I can't say it on live stream, but yeah, guys, here's what Muslims think about patriotism.
اسلام آمده است که این حرفای نامربوط را از بین ببرد. افراد ملی به درد ما نمیخورن، افراد مسلم به درد ما میخورن. اسلام با ملیت مخالف است. معنی ملیت این است که ما ملت را میخوایم، ملیت را میخوایم و اسلام را نمیخوایم. اون مردی که در خارج گفت که اول من ایرانی هستم، ملی هستم، دوم ایرانی هستم.
So here when Khomeini is talking about, like, he's insulting that person abroad, he's referring to Shahanshah Aryamer, right? So the jihadi Muslims, right, like the psycho Muslims, they don't even consider Pahlavi a Muslim, even though, like, he went through the motions, right? Like Shahanshah Aryamer, he went through the motions, whatever, because Iran was a Muslim majority country, but he was not Muslim enough for the jihadis, because the Shah of Iran said that he's first an Iranian, second he's a patriot, and then third he's a Muslim, right? And he was basically saying that to appease, like, the Durka jihadi Muslims. That was not good enough for them, because if you put your country first before Islam, then you're not a true Muslim. You're not a true Muslim. And that's why they went after him. Look at this. Look at this.
را نمیخوایم. اون مردی که در خارج گفت که اول من ایرانی
The Shah said, first I'm
هستم،
Iranian,
ملی هستم،
second I'm a patriot,
دوم ایرانی هستم، سوم اسلام. این اسلام نی.
and then the Shah said, third I'm a Muslim, and then this Durka jihadi Islamic pedophile Nazi terrorist is like, that's not Islam, because Islam comes first. Islam comes before your national identity, and Islam comes before your country, right? So that's why when that guy on the Mark Levin show, when he just said as a Muslim, I'm like, oh, because as soon as he said that, it reminded me of this. Like, it reminded me of this speech by Khomeini Khabar Margesh, right? Like the pedophile Muslim who basically wrote a book about how to, like, sexually abuse infants. And it's guys, this guy, by the way, Jimmy Carter and the Democrats supported this guy. Okay, so one of the reasons the 1979 Islamic coup d'etat happened is because Jimmy Carter and the Democrats thought that this guy, okay, this Muslim pedophile who literally wrote a book about how it is actually halal to sexually abuse infants, and he even wrote, like, he wrote a manual on, I'm not even exaggerating, he wrote a manual on how to sexually abuse infants without injuring them, and in order to, like, comply within the rules of Islam. Yeah, this guy literally wrote a book on how to, like, sexually abuse infants. I'm talking literally infants, okay, like newborns, infants, in a halal way. Jimmy Carter and the Democrats supported this. Jimmy Carter and the Democrats thought that this guy was better than the Shah of Iran. Yeah. Look it up. Anyways, watch again. Now that you have the context, right? The guy literally says that patriotism and nationalism is the enemy of Islam. So I hope you now understand why when that guy on the Mark Levin show, like, he should have said as an American. He literally should have said as an American. Instead, he said as a Muslim. And I'm like, red flag, because when he said that, it immediately reminded me of this speech. Guys, this is what I mean. We Iranians, we've seen it all. We've been dealing with 1400 years of Islam and jihad. Watch again, and then we're going to go to some more footage.
اسلام آمده است که این حرفای نامربوط را از بین ببرد. افراد ملی به درد ما نمیخورن، افراد مسلم به درد ما میخورن. اسلام با ملیت مخالف است. معنی ملیت این است که ما ملت را میخوایم، ملیت را میخوایم و اسلام را نمیخوایم. اون مردی که در خارج گفت که اول من ایرانی هستم، ملی هستم، دوم ایرانی هستم، سوم اسلام. این اسلام نی. تو سوم هم اسلام نیستی.
Just said it. Sorry. I just like, honestly, like, I hate watching his videos. I hate hearing his garbage voice. Like, just looking, like, seeing his face just literally makes me want to vomit, right? But I put myself through that torture for you guys because I know this information is important, and I know that many of you have not seen this footage or information. And so, guys, don't worry. I will take one for the team. I will suffer through as many like pedophile Islamic mullah videos as I need to, because, you know, I need to share the information with you guys. But just, it's torture. It's literal torture. All right, let's go to some more footage. Okay, I want to share more footage from today. So here we go. I'm going to share a few more videos, but I'm actually making an actual like video that you guys can watch and reference, and that's going to be a little bit more concise. We did get a little bit off topic today, but I'm not actually upset by that, because what Mark Levin was saying was actually very important, and it relates to exactly what's happening in occupied Iran today. Because when I started my intro to this live stream, I was talking about the Crusades. I was talking about jihad, and I was explaining that we Iranians, we've been fighting this jihad for the last 1400 years. And what you're currently witnessing in occupied Iran is basically the Iranian version of the Crusades. So, oh, Wiley says, Goldie, let someone else look at the hard videos. No, I can't. Listen, I've looked at so many of these videos. I'll continue to look at the videos. It's okay. Like, I have thick skin. But it's just like, ugh. It's just they're so disgusting. Like, for us Iranians, like, we know how vile and disgusting these people are. Like, the level of disgustingness, like, I can't even begin to describe. Like, however evil and disgusting you think these people are, they're even worse. Like, the Islamic regime, it's even more disgusting than you can imagine. Like, they're just, it's pure evil. But okay, let's go to some more footage that's coming out of occupied Iran from today. And this footage is essentially the Iranian people's version of the Crusades to fight back against Islam and jihad. So let's watch this video here. So this is literally from today. Wow, okay, so they're chanting Natarsid, Natarsid, ma hame ba ham hastim, which means don't be afraid, we're all together. Wow. Also, do you see how peaceful everyone is? Right? This is the exact same way that Iranians were protesting on January 8 and 9 before they were brutally massacred by the Muslim Nazi terrorists occupying Iran. And yet, these are young people. Like, guys, these aren't old people. These are young people. And they're not afraid. Do you know why? Because as difficult as it is to say, there's a reality and there's a truth that Iranians in occupied Iran have accepted. Whether or not Iranians fight for their freedom, being born in occupied Iran and living in occupied Iran in and of itself is a death sentence, because the Muslim Nazi terrorists can murder you at any time, at any point, for any reason, and they don't need to justify it. So after the massacre of January 8 and 9, Iranians have lost all their fear. That's why they're going out, even though they're unarmed. That's why they're not afraid to speak out. Because they already know that if they remain silent, they're going to be murdered anyway. So at least this way, at least this way, they know that if they die, if they're murdered by the Islamic regime, they died standing up. They died fighting for their freedom. They died fighting for what you and me take for granted. Living in a free, secular, democratic society. That's what they want. That's what we Iranians want. That's what we deserve. We just want the same rights that you have. We just want to be able to live our lives. And don't think for a second that those of us who live outside of occupied Iran, don't think that we're free, because we're not. I have a bounty on my head, $250,000. The Islamic regime put that bounty out back in March. They doxed my home address. I'm in the process of selling my house because I can't go back there. It's not safe for me. And I don't live in occupied Iran. I live in Canada. But think about that. I'm a former Canadian politician, and yet the Islamic regime had the audacity to put a bounty on the head of a former politician, former Canadian politician. Why? Just because I have this YouTube channel and I'm speaking out. I'm raising awareness about the Islamic regime. I'm raising awareness about the fact that the Iranian people want to live in a free and democratic society. So yeah, no Iranian is free. No Iranian lives in safety. And for those of you who've been watching Iran Revolution Live, you know about Feridun Farrokhzad, or as you like to call him, the Pishman. Feridun Farrokhzad was a singer. He was an artist. He sang songs about the Iranian Revolution, about overthrowing the Islamic regime. He was murdered in the early 90s by the Islamic regime. He was in Germany. They sent assassins to Germany to murder him because they were afraid of his voice. So yeah, I might not be living in occupied Iran, but do you think I have a life? Do you think I'm able to go out? No one knows where I am. No one even knows which city I'm in. That's the reality of being Iranian. All of us are oppressed. All of us are occupied. All of us live in fear of our lives. And none of us will be free until all of us are free. And the only way to free the Iranian people, and the only way to get rid of this existential threat, not just against the Iranian people, but against the entire world, the only way to help stop the jihad that is invading your countries right now as we speak is to get rid of the Islamic regime. Because the Islamic regime is a cancer on this earth. And just like cancer, if you want to cure it, you have to get rid of it. Because if you even leave one cancer cell alive, that cancer will grow, it will multiply, and it will become even more aggressive than before. And that's how you need to picture occupied Iran right now. Because Iran is a beautiful, peaceful country with a civilization and a people that have been around for thousands of years. And remember, the Persian civilization invented the concept of human rights, freedom of religion, equality between men and women. We had a modern, advanced society. It was the Persian civilization under Cyrus the Great that freed the Jews from their Babylonian enslavement, took them back to the promised land, and helped them rebuild the Second Temple of Jerusalem using Persian money. Why? Because Cyrus the Great knew that Israel belongs to the Jewish people. And that happened 1,000 years before Islam was invented. That's history. And facts don't care about your feelings. So yeah, if you want to curb the threat of jihad in your countries, the best way to do that is to support the Iranian people who are fighting, we have been fighting jihad for 1,400 years, and we're so close to the end. We're at the finish line. And I'm telling you guys, a free Iran is going to be a fundamental global shift. Because a free Iran will be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, defender against jihad and Islamic invasion. Because after 1,400 years of Islamic conquest, Iran is finally ridding itself of this foreign cancer that does not belong to Iran, right? And guys, I don't care what people in like the Arabian Peninsula, what religion they want to have. I don't care. That's their culture, that's their religion. You guys do you. But Islam is a foreign concept to Iran and the Iranian identity and the Iranian civilization. Islam is anti-Iranian, and that's why the Islamic regime is trying to erase the Iranian identity. But I'll have a lot more to talk about, and I'll have a lot more to say about that in future videos. Let me go to some of the super chats, and then we're going to call it a night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay, so Rastabax is gifted 10 memberships. Thank you very much. Born says, I want the people to be free now. Listen, I would love for the Iranian people to be free now. That's what we're fighting for. But I think there's a process. I think there's a plan. And we have to trust it because, guys, this isn't like World War II. Like Nazi Germany was only around for like less than a decade. The Islamic regime has been around for 47 years. So it's going to take a little bit more time to get rid of this brutal Islamic dictatorship. But I have a feeling that we're very close to the end. And yes, I want to see the Iranian people being freed last year. But it is what it is. And when I give like my geopolitical analysis and perspective, I try to keep like my personal bias as an Iranian out of it. But what I can say is that we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And the fact that we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel is why these young Iranians are so brave. They're so brave and they're coming out. Because we all know that the Islamic regime is collapsing. We all know that they're going to be gone sooner or later. And that hope is what's giving these young Iranians courage to come out and demonstrate against the brutal Muslim Nazi occupiers. We have a new member, Ed. Thank you. Welcome to Goldie's gang. Born says, go all for the Persian. YouTube blocks me from talking. Oh, I don't know why YouTube is blocking you. So I mean, if you're a new subscriber, it takes you 20 minutes to be able to participate in the live stream chat. And the reason is because my live stream chat is for YouTube subscribers only. And that's because there's a lot of like bots, right? Mark Levin was even speaking about it. Like all these like, bots in, or I don't know if it was Mark Levin, maybe it was my earlier interview from Newsmax, but literally the Islamic regime has all these bot farms, right? And the trolls come in and they just post like Durka jihadi nonsense. And, my channel triggers the Islamic regime. So that's why the live stream chat settings are on subscribed members only. So yeah, you have to subscribe and then wait 20 minutes. That also helps the mods to, more easily block trolls, because I do get a lot of trolls. I get a lot of them. They're just, they're very triggered. They're very triggered by the fact that like an Iranian woman has like a YouTube channel and is speaking, right? So that's all it is. But if you subscribe, you should be able to participate in the live stream chat in 20 minutes. PJ says, do you think the Arm Us videos are connected to the current protests? I don't know. I don't think so, because the current protests seem to be high school students and university students who are protesting about education. And if you recall, back in late February, so I would say sometime around February 22 or 23, we started to see footage of Iranian university students starting to protest. And that was around the time when they started to hang like the effigy of Khamenei, right? Remember, they were basically taking like a stuffed mouse and they were putting a turban on the mouse and they were like hanging the stuffed mouse from a tree. That was in like late February. And that was, what all the university students were doing. And then a few days later, on February 28th, Khamenei was actually boomed and exterminated. And then all of the focus and attention went to the conflict that had just started, right? Like the humanitarian intervention by the United States and Israel. However, a lot of people forgot about the fact that university students were protesting the Islamic regime and like the educational circumstances literally days before. Literally the day before President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu boomed Khamenei, university students were protesting and they were, hanging like stuffed mouses, right? So I don't know if this is connected to that. I mean, it could be, but I don't think so, because these are high school students who are they're protesting the education conditions. But the way that this works in occupied Iran is that the protest always starts with like some local complaint, but then it eventually morphs into demonstrations to overthrow the Islamic regime. That's how it began on December 28. On December 28, it was the merchants, right, the business owners, who were demonstrating against the collapse of the rial, who went on strike. And all of a sudden, the strike went nationwide. And they were all outside and they were striking, complaining about the economy. However, in less than 24 hours, those demonstrations went from complaining about the economy to calling for the overthrow of the Islamic regime and the return of the Shah. So it's hard to tell. I don't know if it's connected. I don't think it's connected. I mean, it could be, but I don't know. Okay. Nuala says, I've gotten so much education from Goldie and Armin, so eye-opening. Thank you. I remember as a kid, the 1979 coup was on TV every night. Thank you so much. Wow, thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you for being here. And, it's wild. Like, this was on TV every night in 1979 from, what I hear from, people like you and others, because I wasn't around in 1979. It's wild to me that like in 1979, this was on TV every day. And yet today in 2025, when we're reversing the Islamic coup, it's hardly on TV, right? Very interesting. Jonathan Mason says, before the internet was cut off, my friend in Tabriz sent out a video of the IRGC monitoring street corners to see if people were using cell phones. Yes, absolutely. The Islamic regime does that. And so people have to like secretly film things. That's why a lot of the footage we get, like it's not like a good angle or whatever, because people are literally filming it secretly. Because if the IRGC catches you filming, they will arrest you, they'll confiscate your phone, they'll search through your phone, and if you're lucky, all they'll do is they'll confiscate your phone. If you're unlucky, you get executed. Yeah. Lou and Kay. Durud, I learned of you from 2C TV and now follow Armin as well. Do you think the IRGC is aware of the videos leaving Iran? Javid Shah. Wow, Durud, thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate that. So, yes, absolutely. The Islamic regime is 100% aware of the videos leaving occupied Iran. Guys, I guarantee you, the Islamic regime is monitoring my YouTube channel. They're monitoring Armin's YouTube channel. They're monitoring 2C's YouTube channel. They monitor everyone. They monitor everyone and anyone who speaks out. But that's not going to stop us. And these videos are coming out for a reason and for a purpose. And we're going to continue sharing them. And to any Islamic regime Arzishi who is watching, I don't know, you know what? All I'm going to say is تون. هر ارزشی که داره نگاه میکنه دارم بهتون میگم تون. خودم میام سراغتون. There you go. This was not a super chat, but this was a really important question. So I started because I wanted to share it. So Laura Roberts asks, did Prince Reza Pahlavi send a recent message to the Iranian citizens? Not that we're aware of. No, not that we are aware of. So the current protests that are happening right now are organic. I mean, they're always organic, but no, this is not happening due to a request at all, which is very interesting because it shows that Iranian people want to overthrow the Islamic regime. Kyle says, and Saul Alinsky. Okay, I'll look into Saul Alinsky and see who that is. Viper US 69 says, it's not just Yuri Bezmenov who warned. The channel-based camp did a video about how the U.S. actually lost the Cold War. They go over a report from 1963 about the USSR's plans, and everything in that plan has happened since 1963. Wow. I'll have to look into that because I mean that's definitely in line with what Yuri Bezmenov was saying, and I don't know. I feel like I need to do another Yuri Bezmenov watch party. Because I know I shared that documentary months ago, but that's when my channel was way smaller. I think, my channel had less than 10,000 followers or something. So I should probably do another Yuri Bezmenov watch party because the information there is really, really important. It's wild. Atsky says, Islam always went against Western values. Yes, it did. Gaxta, Pete Hegseth tattoo says he's a non-believer. Yes, Pete Hegseth has a tattoo on his forearm that says Kafir, and I think that's super based. Good for him. Atki, they see you as 250,000. We see you as invaluable. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, when I found out the bounty on my head was 250,000, my initial response was, what? Only 250,000? I'm worth way more than that. My bounty should have been at least $1 million, right? Come on. I'm worth at least $1 million, don't you think? Anyways, but I agree. Thank you for that kind comment. Mark Dennis Fritz says, I had not heard all those details about the bounty and you living in hiding. I had an idea, but had not heard just how far you have had to go. God bless you, and thank you for your service. Goldie Gamariazis, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, guys, I'm I don't know. It's a real life, James Bond spy movie type thing, I guess. I don't know. There you go. Lady RNT1 says, Goldie, why did you cringe about website the guy mentioned at the end of the video? Well, yeah, so I cringed because he said he's a Muslim first, and I'm like, oh, no. And I went through the whole explanation, right? You should be your country first and then your religion, right? Country first and then whatever religion you are. If you put your religion first before your country, that's weird. that means your alliance is to your religion and not to your country. And I shared the whole video by Khomeini explaining why that's a red flag. Wiley Coyote says, we appear to be at a deadlock, Goldie. What do you think comes next? I don't know, the Crusades? Wait, but what are you referring to? Are you referring to the modern day jihad against the West, or are you talking about the current conflict between the Islamic regime and the United States? Anyways, okay, so those are all of the super chats. As a special treat, a sneak preview, I'm going to share my news interview from last week. And was this from last week? No, oh sorry. This is my one-on-one interview from last night. So I haven't actually uploaded this video to YouTube yet, but I figured because you guys are here and you're joining the live stream, I will share this interview with you that I did last night before we call it a night. So here you guys go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I'm Goldie Gamari, and you are watching The Goldie Show.
It's estimated that the Iranian regime is currently holding around 15,000 political prisoners, you see right there. They executed at least 39 people since February 2026, according to human rights groups. Let's bring in Iranian-born former member of Provincial Parliament of Ontario, Goldie Gamari. It's great to welcome you to the show. Thank you for joining us, Goldie. Among the prisoners here is Reza Valizadeh, an Iranian-American journalist being held in Iran as we speak. He was sentenced to 10 years on charges of cooperating with the U.S. government. His photo right there. You know, as someone like yourself who was a target with a bounty for your beheading, do you believe Americans like Valizadeh can be used in negotiations to end the war?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, hostage taking is part of the Islamic regime's foreign diplomacy tactics, you might say, starting with 1979 when they took 444 Americans hostage. So we have to remember that. And you cannot trust the Islamic regime. They've absolutely used hostages. They call them political prisoners in order to influence foreign policy. They've done the same thing with France and other countries as well. So yes, absolutely. Anyone who travels to occupied Iran, especially if they're from the United States, they're at risk of being jailed or possibly executed.
You can't trust the Iranian regime. That's something, a sentiment that is shared by many. And if that is the case, I do want to ask you if we can trust the messages that we are getting repeatedly from the Iranian regime right now, as these negotiations are kind of uncertain.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, I don't even call them the Iranian regime because they're actually anti-Iranian. There's nothing Iranian about them. Prior to 1979, Iran was an ally of the United States and Israel. It's only when the Islamic regime took over and these, religious lunatics, began their never-ending jihad against the United States and Israel that, all this terrorism began. So I would say, no, absolutely, you cannot trust them whatsoever. If their lips are moving, they're lying.
As we take a step back to the fact that Hezbollah just rejected the latest ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon, push back U.S.-Iran talks, because these are kind of going alongside each other right now, and several different parties and several, you can assume, different interests.
Yeah, I mean, Hezbollah is fully funded by the Islamic regime occupying Iran. They're actually a proxy of the Islamic regime. And the Islamic regime wants Hezbollah to remain because the same way that the Islamic regime is occupying Iran, Hezbollah is occupying Lebanon. And as you can see, when President Trump announced the ceasefire, within minutes, Hezbollah breached that ceasefire, violated the ceasefire, and began attacking Israel once again. The Islamic regime is using Hezbollah as a bargaining tool, but ultimately they're all terrorists and you cannot trust them at all whatsoever.
Before I let you go, final thought on the future of Iran. Is the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, is he still the leader many Iranians are looking to right now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. In fact, his support has grown and gained momentum, not just inside of occupied Iran, but around the world. Ultimately, there's only one person that we trust to transition Iran from a brutal Islamic dictatorship back to a functioning secular democratic society, and that is His Royal Highness Reza Pahlavi. There's no other person that we trust. There's no other opposition leader. Over 40,000 Iranians lost their lives back on January 8 and 9, calling his name. So Iranians have made their decision, and it's time for the world to recognize that we only trust and support Reza Pahlavi.
All right, well, we will be watching that and looking for the developing role, potentially. Goldie Gamari, thank you for joining us tonight on the National News Desk. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. Guys, how did I do? Did you like that? Was that a good interview? So that was from last night. I will post that on my YouTube and on my Instagram probably tomorrow morning because it's getting a little late. So, but you guys like that? Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all. So thank you everyone for tuning in to tonight's edition of The Goldie Show. Before I leave, I just want to let all of you guys know. So tomorrow, guys, don't forget, and this is pinned in the YouTube live stream chat. I also provided the link on Rumble and on X. So guys, do not forget, tomorrow we're taking another school field trip. So tomorrow we are going back to the Gamma Ray Report, and we are going to be watching a documentary on whether or not Pluto is a planet. Guys, for those of you who don't know, that's my sister, Rose Gamma Ray. She just started her YouTube channel called The Gamma Ray Report. She's literally an aerospace engineering professional. She's designed airplanes. She knows all the sciencey stuff. And yeah, she's the smart one in the family. So tomorrow evening, the live stream starts at 7:30. What is it? 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, go to her channel, subscribe. Guys, it has nothing to do with Iran, nothing to do with geopolitics. Her channel is strictly about science and space and all that stuff. So that's why it's basically like a class field trip, right? So if you're interested in learning about science, yeah, you're welcome to join me in that live stream tomorrow night. And if you're not interested in science, that's okay, because the class field trip is not mandatory. The class field trip is optional. It's optional. But for those of us who have gone on the class field trip together, we have had a lot of fun. So guys, make sure to follow her channel, subscribe, show her some love. She's only at 1.28 thousand subscribers. I know she can do more than that. She's getting her groove. She's very smart. And yeah, so that's what we're doing tomorrow. We're taking a field trip. Iran. So the Goldie Show community and Goldie's gang, we're taking a field trip to space on the Gamma Ray Report. And I'm looking forward to that. All right, guys. Oh, wait, let me put the link again. Let me put the link again to her YouTube channel in case anyone needs the link. And the live stream chat is always fun there as well. Wait, let me see. Did I add it to Rumble? Where's my Rumble? Where's Rumble? Let me add it to Rumble as well. You Rumble people, my Rumble crew, I'm not going to forget about you guys. There you go. I'm going to try to convince her to get on Rumble, but she's very new to this stuff, right? So I don't know if she's, comfortable with going on Rumble just yet. She's still kind of getting her bearings and stuff. But all right. So that's going to be the live stream tomorrow. Class field trip to the Gamma Ray Report, and we're going to go to space and go to Pluto. and whether or not Pluto is a planet. And it's going to be a lively discussion. All right, guys. Thank you as always. Oh, wait, what happened? There we go. Thank you as always for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow. And as always, I'm Israel Chai. God bless America. Payanda Iran. Javid Shah. This has been The Goldie Show. I'm Goldie Kamari. And now you know.